My name is Dennis Tate. About an hour or so ago, I did a video showing how the New Democratic Party can combine with the Liberal Party, flip a coin near the time of the election when they are facing a Conservative Party incumbent, and they could theoretically destroy the Conservative Party at the provincial level and at the federal level. It's quite simple, it's basic math, nothing to it. Now, I wish to say that Prime Minister Stephen Harper, although he made me angry for several things, he booted MP Bill Casey from the Conservative Party for debating with him, and that annoyed me very much. Last November, he attempted to bankrupt all three of the other parties, and frankly, that impressed me as almost being un-Canadian, so that bugged me. And I'm pro-life, and I used to be a member of the Christian Heritage Party, and then he came out and said that no Conservative MP can even raise the issue of abortion to discuss it. So that bothered me, and I just kind of, well, okay, it resulted in the other video. But anyway, now here's the other side of the question. Prime Minister Harper is actually a very good Prime Minister on a lot of categories. He is the most pro-Israel Prime Minister we've ever had. He deserves a lot of credit for this. He visited our troops in Afghanistan. I admire him for doing this. He has done a lot of good things. No kidding. I'll be 50 years old next week or so, and he is one of the best Prime Ministers to occupy the office in my lifetime, despite the fact that he has this uncanny ability to get all of us up here bothered at him for one thing or another that he does. But now what I got to do is, I owe the Conservatives a lot. Our local MP, Minister of Defense Peter MacKay, his secretary, is instrumental in getting my wife into this country through the immigration process. So, the other side to the question is, how could Prime Minister Harper survive the NDP and the Liberals getting together and flipping coins? How could they survive it? It's simple. They could tell the truth. I have ran as an independent candidate in 2 municipal elections and 1 provincial election. And I always centered my campaign around one central truth. Canada's Prime Minister Mackenzie King in 1940 initiated a brilliant monetary policy. As a matter of fact, I'll read you some about it from some economists. It's not my idea. I wouldn't know this. When I was very young, I had bleeding ulcers. When I was 14, I had rheumatoid arthritis. I got into the habit of reading a lot. So I didn't think this up. I read it. Somebody gave me a magazine in 1994, and once I read it, I went, wow, this is amazing. This is why our economy kind of sucks. So here is an article by 3 economists. Their names are Harold Chorney, C-H-O-R-N-E-Y, John Hotson, H-O-T-S-O-N, and Mario Seccareccia. Any of you can use a internet search engine, can find that article fairly simple. You've got the 2 last names. You can figure it out. I have to read you a bit of this. This is their article. Why was a much larger national debt shrugged off in 1945 while today's much smaller debt as a percentage of GDP, gross domestic product, is being used as an excuse to let the economy stagnate? Kind of a relevant subject during a time of a global Great Recession. But does our Prime Minister talk about this? No. But you know what? It's not his fault. It's yours. Because you know why? You are called the ignorant masses. Do you know why? Because there's a whole bunch of you, and you don't read very much. Now, I don't blame you, because we go flipping through the channel on the boob tube, and we find boobs on there, we get distracted, and we don't read. I mean, who could blame you? But nonetheless, sometimes you got to do some reading if you want this country to survive, because swine flu has terrible implications, and I don't want us to go into a swine flu pandemic thinking that we're bankrupt, because our Prime Minister, who allows us to think that we're bankrupt because he doesn't explain this, because it was done by a Liberal in 1940. Anyway, here we go. The answer can be found at the Bank of Canada. during the war and for 30 years afterward. The government could borrow what it needed at low rates of interest because the government's own bank produced up to half of all the new money. That forced the private banks to keep their interest rates low too. Since the 1970s, however, the Bank of Canada, with government consent, has been creating less and less of the new money, while letting the private banks create more and more. Today, our bank creates a mere 2% of each year's new money supply, while allowing the private banks to gouge the government, and of course you and me as well, with outrageously high interest rates. And it is these exorbitant interest charges that are the principal cause of the rapid escalation of the national debt. If the federal government were paying interest at the average levels that prevailed from the 1930s to the mid-1970s, it would now be running an operating surplus of about $13 billion. This was written in 1992. The situation is far worse. You don't know about it. Prime Minister Harper is scared to tell you. Why? Because you are so phenomenally ignorant that you just can't get your heads around it. So why don't you do a search for those three guys, read the entire article, and get a clue. We are not bankrupt. We can go into a swine flu pandemic recognizing there is money there. My name is Dennis Tate. Do a search for me. I've ran for office 3 times. My writings are all over the internet. bankingsystemflaws.blogspot.com. You can find me easy. Tate, number 4, Central Nova on Facebook. You'll find me no problem at all. Dennis Tate.